If we go back to the very beginning, though, what was the founding story for Thumbtack, and what were some of the first steps that you took to actually start as a marketplace at the time?
Yeah. So, I had worked with my co-founders previously doing something very different. We started sort of a nonprofit in college, but it was a startup. We raised $1 million and we kind of built this thing out of nothing. And, what we decided to was kind of reorient ourselves towards building a technology company. And, I grew up in the Bay Area, parents are engineers, and I saw the opportunity for us to apply the same energy in this kind of less encumbered domain. And then in some sense, we did what kind of you're not supposed to do, right? Decide to start a company and then go hunt for an idea. But I think we were oriented sort of outside ourselves. We were oriented around just like customers and problems in the world. And we literally said to ourselves, what do we feel like is broken today that will inevitably be solved by technology? And we think it is sort of, doable, by us. And, hiring a plumber was something that we came across, and every homeowner you ever talk to struggles with hiring pros. It's not because there aren't great pros. You talk to pros, they want more business. It's really a market failure, a search failure, a discovery sort of failure. And we saw that as the problem to go solve. And so I think we very quickly zeroed in on the kind of why, and it turned out to be really deep and big and important and, still propelling us to this day, but also sort of dramatically harder. And so, if you want to start the clock on like, how do we actually built it? The first thing we did was, just think about how to acquire pros. I think like a lot of marketplaces, you turn to the supply side first and you say, how can I bring these folks on? And we realized that, a lot of these people were on Craigslist. And so to recruit them, what we did is we built a tool for them to create a profile on Thumbtack and then very seamlessly republish that onto Craigslist. And so we became kind of a rich profile and then sort of a hosting enabling tool. And, that solved the problem day one that like we had no customers, right? So it's like that became our kind of pro acquisition tactic. And what that got us, which we hadn't appreciated out of the gate, we were just focused on the supply side at first, was actually very rich, unique content, which ultimately began to attract customers via SEO. And that kind of closed the first loop of the business in terms of, at first we acquire pros so that they could post on Craigslist, and that worked, but then only by acquiring pros that then gave us the content that attracted customers. And yeah, that took years and years to sort of fully kind of develop. So, I can tell the story very briefly, but it happened over the course of years. And there's a similar evolution, not just from a sort of growth mechanic, but ultimately from a marketplace mechanic in how did we solve this problem of discovery and search? And ultimately, how reliable of a marketplace was it to both sides, which is critical because that's ultimately what determines kind of retention and loyalty and delight.